Trump media paid Donald Trump Jr. $813,000 in 2024 to attend 2 meetings. He sits on the board of directors of Trump Media. How do you get that job? And he's supposed to attend 5 meetings via Zoom. That's it. For $813,000 a year, he only was able to show up for 2 of the 5 meetings, but they paid him $813,000 last year to show up for 2 meetings. Forbes reporting that Truth Social, which paid, did I mention this, Don Jr., $813,000 in 2024. Truth Social lost $401 million the very same year, with a total revenue of only $3.6 million. But tell me again how DEI is the problem in corporate America. Despite hemorrhaging money, racking up $401 million in losses last year, with no income, a couple $1 million in income, Trump Media now has a market cap of roughly $6 billion. But let's give a tax break to the billionaires so their kids can inherit money, jobs, and salaries they don't deserve, so they can kill endangered ducks on hunting trips to Venice. Donald Trump Jr. visited Venice, Italy, in December to hunt fowl. I mean, why else would you go to Venice? Everyone knows the only reason you go to Venice is to kill endangered duck. Trump's New Jersey strip mall lawyer, Alina Habba, is now serving as an advisor in the White House, and she told reporters, our president is, quote, running America like he runs his businesses. Seriously, she said that. She said, and I quote, this is what we're about. We're running this country like President Trump runs the Trump Organization. Help me, God. Please help me. She continues, and if you want your budget balanced, if you want to not have a deficit, who better to do so than a businessman who understands how to make money? Oh, I get it. She's thinking of the other President Trump, the one who didn't bankrupt 6 businesses. She goes on to say Donald Trump is, quote, a businessman who knows how to spend money. Yeah, ours. And, she said, how to get out of debt by declaring bankruptcy and not paying back his creditors. She goes on to say, and that's what we're going to do. Yeah, we're going to bankrupt the country. That's what you're going to do. That's pretty much what he did in 2020 when he crapped the bed on COVID. Headline, Washington Post, February 28th, 2024, a little more than a year ago. Trump said he had $400 million in cash. Now his lawyers say bond is a struggle. You might remember a year ago, he was found guilty of inflating his wealth in order to secure favorable interest loans on the hundreds of millions of dollars he had to borrow to stay afloat. That's fraud. And he was ordered to pay roughly $500 million to the state of New York. And Alina Habba went before the judge and said, we can't, it's impossible for him to come up with $500 million. This is from ProPublica, April 5th of last year. It's amazing how quickly people forget. April 5th, 2024, wasn't even a year ago. His lawyers had told the appellate court it was a practical impossibility. That would be Alina Habba saying it was a practical impossibility to get a bond for the full amount of the lower court's judgment, $464 million. All of the 30 or so firms Trump had approached balked, either refusing to take the risk or not wanting to accept real estate as collateral, they said. That made raising the full amount, quote, an impossible bond requirement. According to reporting in the New York Times, final figures show Trump, in his first term, added $8.4 trillion to America's national debt. By the time he left office, he was responsible for at least 1/3 of our entire national debt. No president in 4 years or 8 years racked up as much debt for our country as Donald Trump. And yet, somehow, he's back in the Oval Office. And now, he and his Republicans are planning to give the richest 1% a $4 trillion tax cut with absolutely no way to pay for it other than racking up even more debt and blaming Democrats for the debt because Democrats don't want to get rid of Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, and Social Security. They just passed a bill that raises the debt ceiling by about $5 trillion. More debt. Again, $4 trillion. The party of fiscal responsibility that crashed our economy in 2020, 2008, and of course 1929, wants to give a $4 trillion tax cut to the rich, even though every time they give a tax cut to the rich, they end up ballooning our debt and crashing the economy. Every time. But people who sell tobacco insist it doesn't cause cancer. People who sell oil insist it doesn't destroy the climate. People who sell health insurance insist it doesn't destroy medicine. And people who sell a massive tax cut for the richest 1% insist it doesn't destroy the economy. Why do they say all this despite the evidence to the contrary stacked against them? When there's money involved, you will have no trouble finding charlatans, swindlers, and demagogues willing to say with absolute certainty, there's no shark. The beaches of Amity Island are perfectly safe. Enjoy your 4th of July weekend. A $4 trillion tax cut for the richest 1%. Half this country can't come up with $500 for a medical emergency. So Trump taps into the fear and anger that flows from this financial precarity so many Americans feel. He taps into it by shifting the blame over to the migrants. And now he's blaming Ukraine, the EU. They're all taking advantage of us. Well, we're certainly being taken advantage of. He's got that right. But it's not the migrants. It's not Europe, NATO, Mexico, Canada, or Zelensky. It's everybody inside Trump's cabinet. That's who's not just taking advantage of us, they're robbing us blind, all under the phony rubric of fiscal responsibility. They've already voted to raise the debt ceiling by about $5 trillion, the party of fiscal responsibility. And of course, they also blame what they call our bloated civil service. Musk and Trump have right now millions of Americans who can't come up with $500 for a medical emergency. They have these people, some of them convinced it's because it's the government's fault that they can't come up with $500 for a medical emergency. It's the civil service stealing from us. Dead people are on salary. No proof, but dead people are being paid by the federal government to do nothing. Dead people are collecting Social Security, says Elon Musk, even though the head of Social Security appointed by Donald Trump says that's a lie. Well, the truth is the civil service is not stealing from us. Privatizing government jobs, that's stealing from us. Defoliating our civil service and replacing competent, loyal Americans with private contractors who charge 3 times as much for 10 times less efficiency, that's stealing from us, and that's the plan. To cut taxes for the richest 1% and rack up more debt by firing the civil service and replacing those workers with Trump and Musk cronies. Firing federal employees is about increasing, not decreasing, increasing the debt. This is about privatizing government, which is more expensive and less efficient than what we have right now. As I pointed out many times before, 1/5 of America's entire economy flows through the Treasury Department's payment systems. When you add in other sources of federal spending, plus local and state government, by my calculations, 40% of our entire economy is what government spends. So the people behind Project 2025, they're opposed to government spending and government waste unless that government spending is wasted on them. Erik Prince, the founder of Blackwater, has delivered a 26-page plan to privatize ICE. He wants in on it. He says he can do it better than ICE. Prince told the Trump administration that for just $25 billion, he can set up a program that will remove 500,000 immigrants a month for only $25 billion a year. That's $25 billion. Of course, he's going to need, he says, Army bases to provide temporary housing for migrants. He's going to need other government employees, but he says, I can do it cheaper and better than the United States government can. Sure you can. The last time Donald Trump soiled the Oval Office, Prince proposed privatizing the war in Afghanistan by turning it over to him. He said America could win if the war was being fought for profit. When has a war ever not been fought for profit? The Hill reporting that right before leaving office the first time, Donald Trump had to pardon 4 Blackwater mercenaries charged with manslaughter for the killing of 17 Iraqi civilians in 2007.